All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to talk about a threat that honestly gets lost in the shuffle of severe convective storms, or SCS. And look, I'm going to be blunt. What most of the industry thinks it knows about straight line wind risk, it's not just a little outdated, it's actually dangerous. This statement right here, it gets right to the heart of it. We all know the word derecho, sure. But are you actually pricing and modeling it for the unique catastrophe that it is? Or is it just another thunderstorm in your model? Because that difference, well, it's not just academic. It has huge financial consequences. So let's talk about the uncomfortable truth here. We're not talking about some brand new peril. This is a familiar one. The problem is, we've been putting it in the wrong box for years, and it's been hiding in plain sight, masked by all the averages. Okay, so here is the big shift in thinking we all need to make. If you are trading straight line wind as just background noise in your overall SCS losses, you are completely missing a massive driver of volatility. A derecho is its own thing. It's a distinct catastrophe, and lumping it in with everything else is a critical miscalculation of your aggregation and your tail risk. It's that simple. So what makes a derecho so special? Why is it so different? To really get a handle on the risk, we have to understand the storm itself. And trust me, this is not your average thunderstorm gust. This is a totally different beast. Let's put this in plain English. A derecho is basically an organized, long-lasting armada of thunderstorms. Seriously, think of it less like a single storm and more like a meteorological freight train. It just keeps going for hundreds of miles, creating this continuous path of damaging straight-line winds that can easily hit Category 1 hurricane strength. And this really says it all from a portfolio perspective, right? A tornado, for all its intensity, cuts a really narrow path. A derecho, on the other hand, carves out this massive corridor of damage, sometimes over 60 miles wide. And that huge footprint, that's the engine of its catastrophic potential. So that wide corridor of damage, it translates directly into a really unique and, frankly, financially dangerous loss signature. So let's break down exactly why this matters so much to your bottom line. So here's where the rubber meets the road. These are the insurance mechanics. First, you get this incredible aggregation. We're talking thousands and thousands of small to medium-sized claims all at once. Second, you get extreme correlation. A single event can light up losses across multiple states, connecting parts of your portfolio you'd never think were linked. And finally, volatility. This is the real kicker. This is the peril that can absolutely spike your losses in portfolios that you don't even consider to be in traditional hail country. We all remember the 2020 Midwest derecho. That was the big wake-up call for so many. It just tore across the heartland, and the destruction, especially in places like Cedar Rapids, was unbelievable. For a lot of regional carriers, this event completely changed the game. It became the new, painful benchmark for straight-line wind. But here's the thing. This wasn't some new phenomenon. Let's just rewind the clock to June of 2012. You had this powerful derecho that spun up in the Midwest and just ripped a path all the way to the mid-Atlantic coast. That one event shows you both the longevity and the cross-regional threat these things pose. It connected the plains all the way to the eastern seaboard. And the scale of that 2012 event was just staggering. It knocked out power for over 4.2 million customers. Think about that. And it was during a major heat wave. That number alone tells you everything you need to know about the massive societal disruption these storms cause. And of course, the insurance impact was immediate, and it was huge. Over 50,000 claims were filed from that one event. Claims departments across a dozen states were just flooded. That is the very definition of a correlated catastrophe. So this is a really crucial point. If you're sitting there thinking, oh, this is just a Midwest problem, you're making a very dangerous assumption. The atmospheric ingredients for these things can and absolutely do come together over other regions. Just imagine a 2012-style event tracking right over the dense urban corridors of the Northeast, or a similar system blowing up over Houston. The potential for loss is just enormous. And that brings us to the core of the challenge today. If this risk is so big, why is it so often underestimated? Well, the answer really lies in how we measure it. Let's talk about the modeling trap. It's a direct question, and it's one every single risk manager needs to be asking. Are the tools you're relying on, the ones you use to quantify your SCS risk, are they actually seeing the peril that drives this kind of volatility, or are they effectively blind to it? The problem really starts with the data itself. The historical record for severe wind is, well, it's a mess. We have weather stations that are too far apart, so they miss the highest gusts that happen in between them. We rely on these point-based storm reports that just don't capture the huge damage swaths that actually drive insurance losses. And on top of all that, climatological studies have confirmed that historically, we've just been systematically underreporting the true frequency and intensity of these events. So here it is, the bottom line. If your model is built on top of this flawed historical data, it will underestimate the risk. I'll say it again. Reported wind is not the same as experienced damaging wind. Relying on that data is like trying to drive while only looking in a blurry rearview mirror. You're going to miss what's right in front of you. Okay, so we've laid out the problem, we've talked about the modeling trap, so what do we do about it? How do we escape? Let's pivot from the problem to the solution and really outline a clear path to seeing your real risk from this peril. Here's a practical checklist of what good looks like. This is what a robust model needs. First, you need realistic damage footprints on the scale of a derecho, and it has to capture the spatial correlation. And this is crucial. It must let you separate the subperils, so you can isolate your true wind loss from hail and tornado. And finally, you need high resolution, especially for dense urban areas, and a deep catalog of events to really explore that tail risk properly. So here's your first action item. Take control. Go back to your model providers, go back to your analytics teams, and demand subperil breakouts. Stop accepting a blended, fuzzy SCS number. You have to know exactly how much of your probable maximum loss is being driven by straight-line wind. Second, take control by challenging your own geographic assumptions. Run some stress tests. Ask the tough questions like, what would a major derecho event actually do to our Northeast portfolio? Or, what's our real exposure to a wind-driven catastrophe along the Gulf Coast? I'm willing to bet the answer is going to surprise you. And hey, for those of you working with parametric products, take control by acknowledging the huge basis risk here. You just cannot accurately trigger a payout for a 100-kilometer wide wind event based on a handful of weather stations. It doesn't work. The footprint of the peril just doesn't match the measurement tool. Okay, let's bring this all home. Here's what you need to take away from our time together. Derechos are not a rounding error in your SCS analysis. They are distinct, correlated wind catastrophes. They can, and they absolutely will, dominate your losses in years and regions where you might think your risk is pretty low. And the only way to manage this is to use tools that can explicitly model the footprint, the correlation, and this specific subperil. Look, if this has challenged your view of wind risk, good. That was the whole point. The question now isn't if a derecho will be the next major surprise for the industry, it's who will be prepared for it. If you want to make sure you're on the right side of that question, please reach out. Thanks for your time.